Welcome back to the Small Business Show, where you get to hear the journey, find the challenge, and create solutions. I'm your host, Lori Brooks, and I thank you so much for joining me today. If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. This week, I have the absolute pleasure of chatting with Madeleine Raiford-Holland, founder of MHM Luxury Properties. Over the last decade, Madeline has built three successful companies and cultivated a community of over 2 million people. Madeline's mission is to help people break free from the golden handcuffs and step into financial and time freedom by building their own highly profitable, automated short term rental business. She specializes in elevated guest experiences, smart systems, and optimization strategies for both aspiring investors and experienced operators. Madeline, welcome, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Lori. I've been looking forward to this conversation after learning all that you do. And so I'm just excited to dive right on in with you.
I was feeling much the same. I was so excited when I had the opportunity to start diving into your journey and really learning your story. So I'm excited for this episode. I'm sure the audience is excited for this episode. So I'd love to dive into your story. But before we do, as we always do, we're going to go ahead and rewind the clock just a bit. I want to go back to the days of, say, junior high or high school. I want you to think way, way back. Think back to a time when your parents, your aunt and uncle, a mentor at school, or a teacher even, may have asked you, Madeline, what do you want to be when you grow up? What was your answer to that question?
That is such a loaded question because at the time, I thought that I wanted to be a doctor.
Love it.
I had always excelled in science, not necessarily math, but I connected really well with my science teachers and just really enjoyed the scientific method and that process of, the system of how you
Mhm,
find the answer to something, very
mhm,
systematic approach to things. And so I was like, okay, what is a field in science that I can make a lot of money? I'm like, I like nice things. I know I'm going to need to make some money. So I poured myself into, AP Science. My teachers like really helped me with that. And I ended up going to Virginia Tech to get a biology degree. What I
mm,
failed to do during that time was actually go into a doctor's office or hospital. And about my freshman, sophomore year of college, I realized blood, guts, throw up, bodily fluids were not my jam. It actually made me sick to my stomach. And so I was like, I think that's going to be a problem. Like I don't think medicine is for me. And so the way that Virginia Tech structures
mhm,
their learning is you dive right on into your major first
mhm,
semester freshman year.
mhm,
And so when I went to speak to my advisor, they said, you know what, you're welcome to change your biology major, but you're going to have to spend an extra year here. And I was like, you
mhm,
know what? I don't think that that is the right move for me. I'm
mhm,
not enjoying this.
mhm,
But the advisor was so encouraging. And they said, you know what? 70% of adults don't do anything related to what their college major was. 70%. She said, let's put you through some like personality testing and some career aptitude testing,
mm,
and let's see what fits for you. Okay, we did. And business and entrepreneurship really pegged high.
well,
And so I focused on doing some internships and really pouring myself into learning business, even though I was getting a biology degree. And
mhm,
I just viewed that time getting that degree as a lesson in one, perseverance and
mm,
persistence, but also like learning how to find information about things.
mm,
College really taught me, all right, if I don't know the answer, this is how I can go and find and learn the who aspect, not necessarily the how, like who can help
mhm,
me get there. And so
mhm,
overall, it was a really valuable lesson, but I came full spectrum from middle school, high school, thinking I wanted to be a doctor and then ending up with a biology degree, but tackling the business aspect and the internship at the end and entrepreneurship.
I love that. I love how it's such an authentic start. I don't think there's many of us in this country that grew up thinking that we were going to be anything other than doctors, lawyers. I think that's just what happens when you have like career day and this and that at school. Like we all have those thought processes of this quote unquote ideal life that we think we want. And I love that question because I love hearing how it evolves, where people thought it was going to start, what that thought process looked like in the beginning. And I love how you were so clear. You went into the doctor's office and recognized 100% that was not what you were looking for. And that
This is not
happens.
for me.
That happens
Yes.
more often than not. I was an accounting major. No,
No.
no. But you know what? A lot of us aren't blessed to have that mentor or someone to say, why don't we take that personality test? Why don't we figure out what to match you with? And I love that. And I really encourage the audience, if you haven't done that work for yourself, if you haven't taken the time to stop and figure those pieces out, stop and do that. Take the
Absolutely.
personality test, figure out what those pieces are, where they fit. You were fortunate enough to have someone who helped you do that. And you recognized, okay, there is an alternate path for me here. I do want to eventually own my own business, but you kept on the path. You didn't just give up with your degree. You had already invested in the knowledge. You had appreciated the ability to recognize that this was giving back to you in many, many, many ways, not just the degree itself. So kudos to you for recognizing that and sticking it out. So I'm
Thank you.
curious, what were those next steps? What did it look like for you, to go ahead and say, all right, now I'm done with biology. Where is this taking me? What did that look like?
So, the other massive blessing in my journey was my dad was an entrepreneur, and
Um,
he is one, a gifted businessman, but also an inventor. So
mm,
he owns a company that does high security credentialing, so identification cards for federal,
mhm,
state, and local government agencies. And so he has 3 patents on his technology. It's very high security. And he was at a point in his business where he really wanted to focus on the technology side of things
mhm,
to continue to invent and improve the product, where we realized that I was truly gifted operationally. And so I had been in that business, you know, I cleaning doorknobs as, a child, all the way through just helping out where I could,
mhm.
because that's part of what they do. They didn't shy away from showing us the hard work or letting us be involved in that business. And so when I did some external internships, but then I came back and I said, hey, I think I could really help you here. We need a customer management system. We need more systems, processes, operations. We're bringing all of our manufacturing in house. And um, what do you think? And he said, I would love to, but I don't want you to ever feel like you're pressured in to being
Oh,
part of the family business, which
mhm,
was such a gift. I
mhm,
mean, a lot of parents are like, well, you're going to grow up and be in the family business. We started this for you guys to
mhm,
help you have a future. That was never my parents' perspective on that. And so I came in, worked my way up to COO, and then managed, tens of thousands of manufacturing square foot and just people and multi-million dollar, product lines and all of
mhm.
that. But the company grew over 50% while I was there. And just being able to let my dad be free to, invent and do his thing. And I took care of all of the business operations. And it was really a beautiful time to be able to be mentored by my dad in my entrepreneurial journey. But the key piece here was he and my mom had a long-term rental portfolio, and I
Mm,
kind of took over overseeing that portfolio. Our operations manager was the one doing it, but I kind of came in and said, all right, well, let me see how I can improve this process as well.
mhm,
And all that that taught me was that long-term rentals were not for me. Tenants and toilets and, the literal crap of it all. Sometimes we
Hmm.
had a couple of bad dispossessories where people just left things
Mm,
awful. What I thought I
mm,
was getting away from with medicine, bodily fluids in a house, I was like, you know what? I can't do it. But I dipped my toe in the real estate market there.
mhm,
And then, I kind of put it on the back burner. I'm like, okay, real estate, interesting. I think it might be for me at some point, but not right now. And I was spending, over 100 nights a year in hotels. And so I
mhm,
created a lifestyle website as a creative outlet.
mhm,
So I started sharing different travel guides, recipes, different, home decor products because I had gotten married and was building a house and, just sharing more about my journey as a creative way to just fill my time when I was traveling by
mhm,
myself. And that turned into a six-figure business. And I had collaborations with brands like Target, Delta Airlines, I mean, Wayfair, All Modern. And that taught me how to create content well and
mhm,
at scale. So,
mhm,
fast forward a little bit, my husband and I were wanting to build something for ourselves. And so we said, real estate, more millionaires are made with real estate than any other, vertical.
mhm,
We don't want to do long-term rentals, but what about
mhm,
short-term rentals?
mhm,
And so we created a physical space that had a lot of the products that I had shared on my lifestyle website and gave
mhm,
my online community a place to physically come and experience all that I had shared.
mm.
And that was the birth of MHM Luxury Properties.
Wow.
And then taking that operational zone of genius from my years as a COO to really optimize systems, processes, people, to really not create another job for myself, but to create that time freedom and manage that portfolio. It's just where it all came together for me. And so that business, we opened the first, it was so wildly successful. We've been 5 more in the next 6 months. Now we have 16 properties, and I teach other families how to create that time and financial freedom with short-term rentals. So that's kind of the long story arc of from where we were to where we are now.
I love that. And I want to take it back to first saying how amazing your parents are.
Agreed.
Because the number of entrepreneurs I've had on this show, I can always tell who has an entrepreneur as a parent. It's very clear in the story, it's very clear in the journey. Your parents blessed you with the ability to choose your
Mhm.
journey in full. They didn't push you, they didn't steer you. And as the audience heard, you thought med school and biology were the things that were going to be in your future. Your
Mhm.
parents truly gave you that freedom of choice. A lot of entrepreneurs whose parents are entrepreneurs, they're just in the business or they know that they're going to run a business at some point. That's just a natural piece of their journey that I think they know is there because
Mhm.
it's something that's very much so, I believe, dictated and shown throughout life as an example. An excellent one, be it. But I think it's amazing that your parents provided you with the opportunity to be a part of the business but also give you the freedom of choice. That was impressive and awesome. And I just love that part of your story. So
I'm
kudos to
so
your mom and dad.
appreciative. Totally. And kind of the full circle moment, a couple of years ago, my dad saw mine and my husband's success in short-term rentals. And now we've been systematically going through and converting that long-term rental portfolio that I managed into short-term, and I manage it for my parents.
That is outstanding. That
So
is
it's been
absolutely.
such a wild ride and such a fun journey, but I am truly appreciative for one, how they poured into me, gave me that choice, and have just been so supportive along the way. But my parents are awesome people. We still do Sunday lunch every
Oh,
Sunday after church, and my mom
yay.
cooks. And so it's just very it's not something that I take for granted any day because they've just been such a blessing to have as parents.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. So we're going to go back to MHM properties and
Yeah.
to your rental, the short-term rental business now. But again, I just had to say kudos to your parents, and I really appreciated you sharing that piece of the
I
story.
love the
So,
question. Thank you for asking it. Not a
of
lot of
course.
people go that far back, but it's such a crucial part of people's
Mhm.
journeys. And thank you for going there.
Of course. Of course. Why not?
Why not? We're here.
There you
Let's
go.
do it.
We bring the story full circle. We got to see where people started, what those headaches and hiccups were. So that's what I'd love to hear next. As you started the rental operation correction or streamlining of the operations for
Mhm.
your father's long-term rental business, what were those big headaches or hiccups that you felt like you were running into that made you say, okay, this is the way we can pivot? And what were those systems or pieces operationally that you felt with the short-term rentals were so much simpler and easier? Um,
So I will clarify there. I did not
yeah,
start managing for my dad until I had come full time.
gotcha. Okay.
I was about 10 properties under my belt when I said, "Hey, you're not getting the ROI on these properties that you could be. Let me help you, sir." So I already had my systems and processes honed in at that point, but I didn't always have them honed in. So property number 1, it was definitely a lesson in let's get it up. Let's get it going. Let's get out of analysis paralysis, because that's one
Mhm,
thing that I see so many people struggle with when they're just getting started is they feel like they need to be an expert.
mhm,
And one crucial piece of it is you don't have to be an expert to start. Like,
mhm.
just take the next best step.
Yeah.
So I didn't know how to have a property management software. I didn't know how to integrate door locks. It's one of those
Mhm.
really cool automation things that I love is being able, my reservation comes into a property management system and then it automatically programs the door lock to the last 4 digits of a guest phone number. And
Nice.
it activates 15 minutes before, deactivates 15 minutes after. I mean, just, the little things in life that are just beautiful,
Seamless.
seamless.
Yes.
But when we first started off, we were hand programming those things in, just as you can
Oh
imagine, that's
God.
pretty time consuming. At one property, it's not that big of a deal. You have somebody
Right.
check in every 4 to 5 days. You just have to make sure that it happens. But when you're doing it at scale, definitely not feasible.
No.
So, um, we, the first property was just a lesson of like, let's get it open and then let's go through and optimize. And so, get the doors open, come in and optimize. Granted, I have always just been very in tune with a hospitality experience because I traveled 100 nights a year with
Mhm,
my job as a CEO. I stayed in a lot of these places.
mhm,
I know what I
mhm,
like, I know what I don't like, and I knew the things that needed to happen. So I'd say the getting the software in place, and I tried 7 different property management softwares before I found the one that had all of the systems and automations and different integrations that we
mhm,
wanted.
mhm,
So that was a bit of a challenge because every time you swap one of those systems, as you know,
mhm.
you gotta plug
There's
in
a
all of
lot of
the
back end.
existing things. It's a lot. Swapping softwares is a pain in the butt.
Mhm,
Always a
mhm,
pain in the butt.
mhm,
So landing on one that I found did all the things that I wanted it to do was great. And then I think one of the biggest struggles for folks is doing dynamic pricing. A
mm,
story that I share is when we first started, our first property was in Athens, Georgia, which is home to the University of Georgia. Big football team. We launched in the middle of football season. I knew nothing about dynamic pricing. And what dynamic
mm,
pricing does is it takes all of the market data out there
mhm,
and it controls supply and demand and automatically adjusts your pricing based on what your competition is doing and um, just make sure that you're not leaving money on the table.
mhm.
I had not implemented dynamic pricing yet. It was one of our first weekends out, and I got $750 a night with a 2-night minimum. And I thought, hot dog, we are on to something. It booked immediately, which should have been my
Mhm.
first red flag. But, live and learn. And so in our off season, which is kind of the winter, I said, all right, let me really come in and make sure that we're optimizing each aspect of the business. And I started doing
Mhm.
dynamic pricing. And I realized that what I should have been charging for that football weekend was
Mhm.
$2,200 a night with a 2-night
Mhm.
minimum. And I had left so much money on the table. Naive, my naivety about the whole thing, I thought it was amazing,
Right.
$750 a night, but I
Right.
realized I had left so much money on the table. But, I was thankful for that learning experience. I was thrilled with the 750 and I would have
And
continued
so
to
were
be.
your guests that weekend.
They
I
were.
guarantee it.
They were thrilled, they were thrilled with that 750. They're like, hot dog, we got a steal, 3-bedroom house. My word. Hotel rooms alone are $1,000 a night for
Did you
one.
hear my reaction? I was like, wow, you did what?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so, I think the other piece of that is in the pricing game. I talk with hosts all the time is like, don't charge per night what you would pay for your property.
Right.
It's not what you would pay, it's what the market will pay. And
Mhm.
implementing that software and understanding how to use that software for dynamic pricing allows somebody to understand what the market is willing to support, not
Mhm.
just what I'm willing to support. Because what I
Mhm.
realized is it's not one couple coming in and paying for a 3-bedroom house. Most of the time, it's 3 couples who are splitting that 3 ways, which makes that a lot more doable. And
Mhm.
so, that was one of the other big hiccups and learning moments. And that, believe me, they will never see $750 a night for any of my properties during football season ever again. Yeah, that was a fun learning curve as we were first getting started in one of the ways that we optimized.
That's awesome. I'm curious, what was the tool that you felt you landed on that really helped you start optimizing?
I'd say it was my property management software. We use a company
Nice.
called Hostfully.
Okay.
I've tried all of the major players out there, and it had it's a good balance between user experience and ease of user experience, but
Hmm.
having the really strong tech with the APIs, with all of the other things that I wanted to utilize. One of my big pet peeves is when property management softwares and softwares in general try to do everything themselves and try to be
Hmm.
a one size fits all solution,
Hmm.
which has its place, but there are also other softwares that are just subject matter experts. Like,
Hmm.
I don't want a property management software that tries to integrate with every door lock. There is a door lock specific software that just works so much more seamlessly.
Hmm.
And so Hostly, I think, does a really good job of having a plug and play with
Nice.
different software so I can have that integration and really make it what I want it to be, versus trying to be a one size fits all solution.
Nice. I love it. So tell us where you are today with MHM Luxury Properties. Tell us all about your brand and your businesses.
Yeah, so our we kind of group it into two different businesses. So there's the
Hmm.
properties itself. We manage 16 luxury short-term rental properties. I
Hmm.
am in that business probably 15 to 30 minutes a week, which
Amazing.
is wonderful.
Hmm.
Um, Hundreds of 5-star reviews, and we just focus on having an elevated guest experience over on that side of things. And we're continuing to grow that portfolio. The properties are in Tennessee, Georgia, and Florida. And then we have the education side of things, which is MRH
Hmm.
education. And that's where I teach other people and families how to start short term rental businesses,
Hmm.
actually understand how to acquire profitable properties, and then also set it up for success. So, all of those physical things that a property needs to be successful, and then the digital setup part of it. So, the software, the systems, the
Hmm.
processes, so that you are not creating another job for yourself. You're actually stepping into a business that's going to give you that time freedom. And so that is where I am really passionate about devoting my time, is helping other families achieve that time and financial freedom. Because part of our journey is we started this business when we had two toddlers at this point. Like we started with one, he was 10 months old, and we said, we can't continue all of this traveling. My husband was
Mhm,
traveling for work. I was traveling, as I mentioned. And so we said, something's got
mhm,
to change. We got to build this business for us. And so
mhm.
that business, I mean, like I said, 15 to 30 minutes a week in that business. And my husband is essentially a stay-at-home dad with our boys. We've both since been able to leave our 9 to 5s. And so being able to pour into other families and help them achieve the same is really where I'm devoting the majority of my time, just because it's been such a gift to be able to choose how to spend my time with my family.
I absolutely love that and 100% understand. Being able to help other families create that for themselves is absolutely amazing. So, kudos to you and congrats for all that you've created thus far.
Thank you so much.
Of
And kudos to
course,
you. I love that we're in alignment on that time freedom aspect of it, because what's
definitely.
the point? What's the point of having all this money if you can't,
Exactly.
choose how you spend your time?
There you go. And kids are always a motivator. It's funny.
I
Oh,
never knew how efficient I could be until I was trying to fit a bunch of stuff into a
yeah,
nap time?
there you go. Exactly. Nap times are amazing.
Just gotta get it all done.
Oh, goodness, I do understand. So, I'd love to know if, in fact, you had the opportunity to change anything right now in
Mhm.
your practice in MHM, either the properties or the education side. If you could change anything and wave that magic wand, what do you feel like you would change?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't know if I would change anything right now. I am enjoying being in this growth process where
Mhm.
we're in a very exciting time of expanding on both sides of things. We're expanding on the property side, we're expanding on the education side. I've got an amazing team behind me. And, there's always a lesson, and there's joy in the struggle and joy in the growth. Like I'm trying to do my best to remove myself from being a bottleneck, which is
Mhm.
hard as an entrepreneur to kind of let your hands off of the reins a little bit. But, I'm really content and thrilled with where we are and the growth that we're seeing and our outlook for the next year or two.
I love that. I love that. If you had access to the time machine and say
Mm.
we could go back to pre-Virginia Tech days and tell yourself just one thing, what do you feel like you would have told yourself back then?
Oh. Mm. That's a great question. I'm trying to decide how personal I want to go here.
That's a good one. I love
Forget
that
about
answer in and of itself.
forget about the boy. That's the answer it would
That's a
be.
good one.
Hopefully this one
That's a good one.
make it back to whoever that was. So
Whoever needed that message just received it. I
received it.
appreciate you for sharing it.
Forget about the boy.
You've been outstanding. I have so enjoyed having the opportunity to chat. This cannot be the last time that we have an opportunity to chat. I would love to hear more about, your properties as you're moving forward and the education side of your practice. I've so enjoyed having you as a guest. Please share the best way for our viewers to find you.
Thank you, Lori. It's been a pleasure. People can find me at Instagram and LinkedIn at Madeleine Raiford-Holland. So my name has a little bit funky of a spelling. My mom extra added an extra E in there. So Madeleine, Raiford-Holland, Raiford Holland. That's also my website, MadeleineRaiford-Holland.com. And I would love to see you guys over there.
Excellent. I'll be sure to include the link on the show notes page.
Thank you,
Madeline,
Lori.
thank you.